yeah, I wanted to start with the Runners in the Night album because I don't see a whole lot of in comparison to the first album. I know that it's obviously more dark than the debut album, and with songs like "Scared to Live," and I was just wondering if most of those songs were based off one thing, or what if it was like a variety of things you were writing them about.
Well, the first album, remember, was songs that were collected over various years.
Yeah.
And then after we put out Our Love Is Insane, we sort of were a bit upset that we'd go into a record store and see our record in a disco section because we didn't think of ourselves like that. We thought we were a rock band or pop rock band, whatever, even though we had, you know, an eclectic mix of R&B and rock and storytelling, songwriter stuff, and
Right.
dance beats, Latin rhythms, horns. I mean, it was a whole other kind of like the beginnings of pop music that would happen 8 years later. You know, because it was the beginning of drum machines too. So we were starting to get very conscious that the beats had to be very precise. So we'd cut a drum track and then measure the beats, you know, the downbeats, so they'd be exactly the same distance apart. And then we'd cut the tape to make it so. So you'd see the tape go by and it had all of these repairs on it. And then we'd make a copy of it and then build on that. So that was a kind of a, you know, predecessor to working with loops and drum beats and things like that. And so, you know, the first album, we went on a tour of the United States, and then we realized that we didn't have material that worked that great on stage because we wanted to rock out.
Right.
And then in the middle of it all, I realized, because I had founded the group with my girlfriend, Maria Vidal, together for 4.5 years, living in a tiny apartment. And in fact, she worked as a waitress, as a singing waitress, and her stage name, her waitress name, it was like a fake name, was Gina Velvet. So when later on, many years later, when I went to co-write Living on a Prayer with Bon Jovi, I had that in mind and offered the name Gina and Johnny.
Right.
My original name is Johnny, but John looked at me and said, I can't sing Johnny. Then people think I'm singing about myself. And it's like, right. And then I think he said, Tommy and Gina. So that's how that happened. But in any case, I realized that I was more gay than I was bi, you know? So, I mean, there was a part of me that was very happy with her, but there was a part of me, and I was, you know, becoming a man, that I realized that by nature, you know, I was really more gay. And so then it became very confusing because in the beginning I thought, well, I'm androgynous, like I'm like David Bowie and Mick Jagger and Lou Reed and all of these people that seem to have it, you know, have it both, right? And I thought that that was cool because I really didn't identify with gay culture. I didn't have the look. Everybody had like mustaches and brush cuts and big muscles and plaid shirts and stuff. And I looked like, you know, an English rock star or something, like Robert Plant or something like that. It didn't go with the gay culture. So I never fit into it, but yet, you know, I had the feelings that I had. So Runners in the Night, so what happened was that I met somebody who lived across the street, a young guy who was 21, and his name was Steve Savitt. And I started, you know, kind of running across the street to see him in his apartment. So that's where the title Runners in the Night came from.
Oh,
And
okay.
the first song on the albums called The Truth Comes Out. And because I had to finally face it and I had to, break it to Maria, and it was very, very painful because we were business partners. We were like a married couple. If I had been straight, I'd still be married to her because she's my soulmate. I mean, to this day, we're very close. And we've been working together a lot on re-releasing the 2 albums, remastered versions. And then we decided to do a remake of Our Love Is Insane, completely from scratch to be like up-tempo EDM dance. So we're putting the finishing touches on that. And she's the godmother of our sons, our twin sons, Roman and Nero, who are 18 now. And so we're very, very close. It's funny because Jon Bon Jovi is one of the godfathers. So it's kind of funny that, weird kind of symmetry that she's Gina and he's, Bon Jovi. It's kind of it's kind of weird. So the Runners in the Night album was also like an attempt to bridge the gap into punk music and into rock and into arena rock. Because having worked with Paul Stanley of Kiss, I started having this vision of big rock chords and things that, were like, could enhance the kind of more melodic music that we were writing and make it more powerful on stage. And so, that's why I think later, and also don't forget that there was a big shadow on us, anybody that was trying to make music at that time, which was Bruce Springsteen.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this kind of New Jersey sound, that was kind of like seeping in, and remember that Patti Smith cut Because the Night.
Yeah.
And that was Bruce Springsteen's song. And so there was kind of like punk and, that kind of like Springsteen, New Jersey rock, and all of that started coming together in my creative mind. And that's why we had songs like Hearts on Fire and, The Truth Comes Out, and then it had like punky elements because we started working with our show band guitarist, G.E. Smith. He had a lot of very edgy, punky things, and he had like wore like 1940s suits with like a brush cut, and he had a very strange thing. Even his suitcase was like a leather with straps, and like he had his everything like an old time traveling blues musician. He was very true to that whole vision. So we lived in a very extraordinary time because this is right before AIDS broke. So New York was at its height of hedonism and excitement and all possibilities and edginess, and people, like the people that we call goth now, they were then, with the, earrings, studs in their tongues and mohawks with black around their eyes and plaid skirts and army boots. That's nothing new. So that was like 40 years ago, and it still seems like edgy now. Like you go to the East Village now and you see people walking around with the black nails and everything, like very Marilyn Manson and all that, with the white faces. And it's like, wait a second, you're not doing anything new.
Yeah.
Saw all this stuff when it first came out. So we were kind of, at that time, like kind of trying to find a new kind of music. But, the premise of the group was these 3 women that sang in harmony, and their sound together made a very cool sound. The weakest singing member, I actually think, was me. But I wanted to be a rock star so bad I didn't care. Still, the premise of the band was each one of them would still have solo songs, and we would back them up, and it was like Fleetwood Mac in that way.
Right.
So that's the whole that's the whole thing, is that I wanted to be a rock star so bad. And so then people started talking into my ear saying, you know, what do you need those girls for? They're like cheesy. They make it like cabaret. And I listened to them and I started to think that I could make it as a solo artist. And, you know, I started a band where I was, you know, more like U2 and all this kind of stuff called Yankee.
Oh.
It was like terrible because, you know, I kind of lost myself.
Right.
At the same time, you know, I was now lost in the world where all my friends were dying of AIDS. And so I just, you know, started getting into religious cults and things. And I was looking kind of for a family to belong to. And I think you know, that year, 1979, was so big for us. You know, we like killed it at the Bottom Line. People said our show was historic. We traveled and toured all the biggest cities, Whiskey A Go Go, all everywhere. And then we made Runners in the Night. And then the Women of Rouge got asked to be on Broadway with Gilda Radner in a show called Gilda Live from New York that was produced and directed by Lorne Michaels. And then Mike Nichols did a documentary of it called Gilda Live. They were in it. And then because of that association, we were able to be the musical guests on Saturday Night Live. So, I mean, and then all of a sudden, you know, everything came together. The fact that it was very hard staying in the group together with me and Maria, and everyone else had people talking in their ears too, saying, what do you need them for? You're a star of your own self, you know? And so everybody started like spreading out, and our group fell apart. And we asked to be dropped from Capitol Records because we wanted to be, you know, that was a long record deal. It was like an 8-album record deal or something.
Wow.
They had options on, and our A&R guy was our producer, Richard Landis. And he said, okay, well, we'll let you go as long as you promise not to reform as Desmond Child and Rouge, because that would embarrass me. You know, he talked them into the idea that we had broken up.
Oh.
And so, you know, it's funny because I have recently been in touch with him because I've been sending him pictures, backstage pictures for our website, asking like, who's that person? Who's that person? And, you know, he knows because he was part of Capitol Records. So he knows the names of these like promotion men and all that were all hanging backstage. And so, you know, I haven't seen him like since. I have not seen him since we made, you know, we said goodbye after recording our second record. Like in person.
Yeah. Wow.
So, you know, and he told me that he listened to the album and it brought him to tears because he realized the potential that we had lost. And that, you know, we had gone too far with the Springsteen thing. Then I started thinking about it because my immersion in trying to be like Springsteen or sound like Springsteen or understand that kind of music led me to be able to work with Bon Jovi, who had, you know, who were like, you know, who were kind of like, they existed in that world. And so thus, I think the music that we made together with, you know, me collaborating with Jon Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora had that triumphant, you know, kind of because the night anthemic kind of quality that was in, you know, You Give Love a Bad Name and Living on a Prayer and other songs.
Right.
You know, these lifting melodies that kind of did that. So first of all, I probably would never have written, having had a chance to collaborate on a song like Living on a Prayer, had I not gone through what I went through, because I probably would have just been writing for our own group. It would have occurred to me. And that song has been so important. So you have to wonder, it's like, what is one's destiny? Like, I wanted to be a star, like Marlon Brando says in On the Waterfront, I could have been a contender. You know, it's like I could have been something, but
Right.
how could I have, written if I had been just scraping, trying to find the next single for our group or for me, I wouldn't have, you know, worked on, songs like Dude Looks Like a Lady or, like so many songs. Joan Jett, I hate myself for loving you, you
Hmm.
or I wouldn't have produced Alice Cooper and made Poison. And so you see the destiny, and then I wouldn't have later on had all of that behind me to go to back to Miami to my Latin roots and find Ricky Martin and you know work on Living La Vida Loca.
Right.
So you see my trajectory, you know, has kind of been on this outer rail, but at the same time, I've sold more records combined than any one of those artists on their own.
Right. Yeah.
Because remember, even if one of those artists keeps selling and selling and selling, I sell along with them
Hmm.
and everybody else. So I'll always be ahead.
Hmm. So then, a really big song I wanted to ask you about because it's one of my all-time favorites is I'm With You Now by Terry DeSterio. I was wondering what the story about that was and how how you met her, and because I was just talking to her and she said it was a beautiful experience.
Well, I think we met because she had done a duet with Harry
Yep.
Casey,
Yep.
and we had gone to college together.
Oh wow.
Remember that? Either she was at South Dade or she was going to University of Miami. I remember that there was a connection. And then when I was in New York, I don't know if she went to NYU also, like with Patty Scelfo. She was in our dorm as well,
Mm.
and Maria's dorm at Rubin Hall at NYU. So like it's amazing, But she had been at the University of Miami, and she had been singing with a group called the Seven of Us, which was like a popular Miami group. And we used to go to the University of Miami, and there she was. She was like the lead singer of it with her red hair and all this kind of stuff. So
Mm.
that's when I was in my 2 years I did at Dade, where I met Maria. And
Yeah.
so Terry DeSario, she was somehow there and in school, and she had the most unusual voice. Like she really had like this cool sound. And so I think that when I was in New York, finally, I got a chance to work with her. Is that correct? What year did that come out?
It was 80.
1980?
Yep.
Wow. So this is after I had Desmond Child and Rouge. This was after Desmond Child and Rouge broke up. I was living in this apartment on the upper west side, across the street from the Dakota. I heard the shots when John Lennon got shot. I was
Wow.
across the street in my apartment, and I looked out, and then I saw like all this crazy stuff going on down there, and the cops all running up, and then they kind of all spun off, and I think that they had grabbed him and put him in the police car, and it was very sad, like
Wow.
extremely sad. And I lived in that apartment, and there's where we worked on that song. And you know what? I haven't heard that song in ages. I need to find it. Do you have a copy of it?
I'd have to upload it to YouTube because it's not online anywhere.
Uh-huh.
But
So
it's so beautiful.
so it's called I'm With You Now.
Yeah.
I like it. A lot of things happened, and I've written over 4,000 songs, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Of those 4,000, I'm not sure how many got recorded, but it's a lot.
Hmm.
So there's all these unexploited songs or songs that kind of got lost in the shuffle of life that fell by the wayside that maybe someday will come to light. That's why we're constantly trying to figure out like who's got the demos, where are the lyrics to that? We see titles, but it's like things have gotten lost.
Hmm.
I hate that. I don't
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
want to I don't want to be forgotten, you know.
Hmm.
That's why I wanted to be a star so much. I think that's the reason for that is because I had a very lonely childhood and my mother had separated from the guy I thought was my dad and he kind of shunned me because I wasn't his, but I didn't know that. So there
Hmm.
was something in me that wanted attention, and said, okay, well, if he's not going to give me attention, then how about the whole rest of the world
Right.
to make up for it?
So, and then at that same time, you wrote "You Should Be High Love," and you wrote "Foolish Hearts" and Jane and
Foolish
I'm the
Hearts.
Lucky One.
Foolish Hearts I co-wrote with Don Paul Yole, who passed away from AIDS. I think he died in like in the early part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a song of his I recorded called "A Ray of Hope." And I recorded it on my from Discipline.
Hmm.
And then when I went back to 54 Below, I performed it there. And I put it on my live album, I think. I can't remember now. But anyway, we're putting out the remastered 2 albums, Desmond Child and Rouge. And
Yep.
I just got a copy of them, and they're right here. This is like this is just like QVC. Look,
So those come out next month, right?
yeah.
Are there any like demos or unreleased songs on both of them?
No, because we recorded everything we had.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, there's some demos from before that. I remember there's this cool song we did. It was called China Doll, and it's really like Steely Dan. It really wasn't our style, but it was just like Steely Dan with these like, kind of strange swooping
Mhm.
harmonies.
Right.
And somebody has a copy of it. I think I heard that somewhere. Anyway, that was a song, and there were other songs. A song called I forgot now, but there was some cool songs that didn't make it onto these records. I gotta track those down. Could you hold on just 1 second, please?
Yeah.
I need to get some water.
Okay.
I'm with you now. Completely forgot about that. And where is she? Where's Terry Desario now?
I think she's still living in Florida.
Uh-huh.
Because I wanted to interview her about that album, and she's it was more of just like a interview over Facebook Messenger, because she said that she didn't really like talking about her past that much, which I can understand.
Why?
She just said that she wanted to focus on the future and didn't elaborate, so I didn't want to. But I told her that it was like I love the album and I love that song, and
Yeah.
I know that nobody really ever talks about it. Yeah.
And I remember that she had sort of switched direction more towards worship music, like contemporary Christian music.
Yeah.
Did she stay in that?
Yep. She didn't go back to
pop?
Yep.
So did she stay performing in that, mega churches and all that kind of stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
her voice is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's incredible. So what's your opinion on the songs you wrote for this album?
Oh, well, I co-wrote with her, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she had been on stage with Meatloaf, and she was in the video, I think, of something from Bat Out of Hell 1, right?
Yeah, Paradise by the Dashboard Light, yeah.
Yeah, Dashboard Light, right. And so then, she's the one that got that big sloppy kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Now I kind of remember I had a dream about Meatloaf last night. I don't know
Really?
if it was a dream or a nightmare, but I've been thinking about him because I produced Bat Out of Hell 3, and I'd like to interview him for my future documentary. And he has a lot of footage. Every single thing we did in the studio was filmed, but it never became anything. So it's in the can somewhere. I think it would be interesting to get some snippets of him screaming at me.
Right. I was just talking to Robin Beck too. She said that she wants to do another album with you.
Oh my God. That was a tough record to make.
Why is that?
Well, I don't know. Where was I in that point in my life? What year was that?
89.
89 already? I know. I remember being out in LA to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Steve Lukather doing a solo on one of the songs. And she came in and started criticizing it. And he looked at her and put the guitar in the case and walked out, like, and never came back. And I'm like chasing him into the parking lot, begging him to come back to finish the song. And he wouldn't come back. I remember that. That was tough. But I remember one fun moment when she and I and Maria Vidal, Gina, right, went and helped Diane Warren out, and I arranged and we sang all the background parts to "Turn Back Time."
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's us in the background.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so we kind of quadruple tracked that like it was like ABBA or something.
Mm-hmm.
Turn back time, find a way,
Yeah.
So she was with us, and I have a picture of it. I think I posted it on my Instagram. You can find it. The day
Okay.
I had a little hat and Robin and Maria. It's on my Instagram. Do you follow me on Instagram?
Yeah.
Every day?
Every day. Yeah.
You liking me? You commenting me? Commenting? I can use every fan I can get. But I just recently passed 220,000 followers.
Yeah.
That took me a couple of years to build.
Mhm.
So I'm hooked on it. So I'm constantly posting. Today we're posting when I worked with a band called The Rasmus. And we went to Greece to write a record called Black Roses.
Hmm.
And the song on the record was called 10 Black Roses. And so we wrote all the songs for that record in 10 days because we
Wow.
had 10 Black Roses. So we wrote one song a day for 10 days. And those were the songs that went on the record. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. That's interesting.
So I'm posting the pictures. Ooh, I should check. See if they came up. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Because you know I have a hit now. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Kings and Queens.
Yep.
Oh, it said couldn't load posts. What's going on? Anyway, so next question.
Well, I was gonna go back to, you said you didn't remember the story behind "I'm With You Now," because that's really personal.
I don't remember. I'm with you now.
The lyrics are, "When your heart is marking time, and time we've got forever in our hands. I'm with you now, but you're the one who's leaving in your mind."
Oh yeah, I think I wrote that to that guy that I had fallen in love with that lived across the street
Oh.
because he was too young for being in a serious relationship, and I was like, you know, like he was kind of one day he'd be there and next day not.
Hmm.
And that yo-yoing made me like almost fall like completely apart because
Right.
I lost everything. I'd lost the group, my record deal, my managers, my agent, and then when I lost him, it's like I had nothing. So I
Hmm.
think that a lot of that's what was happening that year, 79, and then thus reflected in that song. You said it was 1980 when it was
You're
written,
right.
or when it was written,
Yeah.
and when did it come out? In 80 as well?
Yep.
hmm So I was still reflecting on that and thinking, it's like, why couldn't I just be happy with the good moments or like being in the moment?
Right.
And then, but I'm with you now, but feeling that person not totally there, the same as you. I mean,
Hmm.
that's kind of like, that's a terrible thing about being young and not being settled. Like I'm super happy with my husband of now almost 32 years because I had to, I was able to stop searching
Right.
and, concentrate on other things. Love really takes up a lot of one's time and
Hmm.
hurts too. All the time you're scared that the person won't like you back anymore and stuff like that.
Right. So and then at that same time when you wrote "You Should Be High Love," was that something that you were planning to do with the Runners in the Night album, or is that something you wrote separately?
I co-wrote that with Billy Squire.
Okay. I
It's like
wasn't sure.
he was like a neighborhood boy, and he lived down the street. And then we wrote the song, and it was always kind of strange working with him. I never felt like that he liked me. or very committed to continuing to work with me. But he went and did that song, and then he made it big. And then he bought an apartment on Fifth Avenue, like on a low floor. It was so beautiful. And it was like in the El Dorado or something like that, a beautiful building. It was like this, you walked in, and then the living room, and then the bedrooms were back there, and the kitchen was the other way. It was a very big apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he lived there a long time. Maybe he still lives there. I had heard that he had gotten involved with the, conserving the park issues and things like that later. But I remember going there and saying, wow, this is making it. This is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So thus, of course, when I got a chance, I bought my own apartment on Fifth Avenue overlooking Central Park. And we still have that.
Oh.
And it's kind of like reminded me of his apartment. He had beautiful artwork. But I never felt like he, for me, I didn't feel like there was anything there, when we tried to work. It always seemed like he was a little bit distracted and kind of doubting me, or maybe judging me for being gay. I don't know. I don't know why it was, but I couldn't get him to connect with me like I do with my other co-writers that are screaming at me in my face. Like, no, it's got to be this, that's the fun of really collaborating.
Right.
So when you like writing and the person like takes a really long time to say whether they like something or not, you just feel like you're falling in space.
Right.
And then, it was like always very, very slow and always kind of never looking me in the eye. So maybe he's a different person now, and maybe he was really going through stuff, and maybe he was super insecure, or maybe I was too aggressive or not the kind of person he liked or something. But I think that's why, it's like I went on to co-write some of the biggest songs in rock of all time. And he never came back to me. And I don't understand that.
Well, then, didn't you guys write together in the late 80s, though?
I don't remember that. Maybe when I went to his apartment, we tried doing something, but I don't remember that he even cut it or anything. Did he?
Yeah, there's co-writes on like his 89 album, 1990 album with you.
Well, I don't remember it.
No.
Like, it'd be interesting to hear those songs now and see what those were made of. But, I felt like I could have done him more good if I really understood him.
Right.
As a person, and written songs that even if he was having trouble connecting, that we could have written about that. Like I wrote a very cool song with Roxette called You Don't Understand Me.
Yep.
And, with Per Gessel and what was her name? She just passed away last year. So it's such a lovely person. But she seemed like to the world very cold on the outside because she was actually extremely shy. And so that's why when I saw her, I said, the title came to me, You Don't Understand Me, and it's really to the world. And that and in fact, when I talked to her and I said the title, she started weeping.
Wow.
Because it touched a nerve. And that's
right.
That you're connecting with somebody's soul.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
I felt her fire inside, I felt, that she was full of emotion, but she couldn't let it show.
Mm-hmm.
She was afraid of being hurt. And, that's actually one of my favorite songs. I would love to record that song. One of my favorite songs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very influenced, I think, by Burt Bacharach and Hal David, the way the chords were and everything. It's the way it modulates and everything. It's very sophisticated. And I wish they had let me produce it too. But, you know, Per got in there and did his thing to it. It wasn't exactly as I had hoped it would be. But, you know, that's one of the few songs that I kind of said, you know, wow, I think I could have done a better job with that. There are only a couple. I mean, I've been so lucky when other people have cut my songs, you know, like,
Right.
you know, so lucky, you know. So it was like, and in the case of songs I collaborated with Bon Jovi and Aerosmith, the productions that were made by Bruce Fairbairn and with Bob Rock engineering and stuff, they were beyond my wildest dreams how great they sounded. It was beyond my capacity to even have done better than that. I mean, I couldn't have. They just outdid themselves, and thank God, you know.
Also, going back to what you said about Billy Squier working with him, so do you like how You Should Be High Love turned out when he recorded it?
It was okay, but you know, it was. I had hoped it would be more like Bang a Gong or something. I just thought it would be. I could have been more aggressive or more, you know, jump out more. You know, I just felt. I still felt that holdback of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Than what later on pop music and stuff, you know, had that, you know, more like in your face quality. But maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe it's because of my experience of working with him that I kind of like wasn't. Maybe I've been unfair. Maybe I should listen to it again and see if it was really good or not.
So what is in the chorus, the title of the song? Is it talking? Is it referring to drugs, or is it referring to like you should be high, as in like you should be feeling confident on the same level as I am?
Well, what is the setup for that lyrically?
It's all talking about it's stuff like being interested in somebody and
Being
like wanting to do being interested in somebody romantically. So I just wasn't sure what it would be about though.
Is it that person not giving it up, and then he says you should be high love, like go into my world of romance or something? Is
That's
that
what that's what I was perceiving it as.
I didn't have anything in my mind to do with drugs because I didn't take them, so I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't know. You should be high love. You should be my love. You know, sort of like we should be all groovy together or something.
Right.
Maybe it does relate to being stoned or something, but to me it was more like you know, the kind of stoned from being in love, like
Right.
like more like that.
So then, and then when you had a song that was done by Ron Dante in '81, you and I know that Robin Beck sang background on that album. So did you know Robin like
No,
throughout the?
I didn't know they were connected at all. And
Oh, okay.
that song was called Jane, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And that song was written for Barry Manilow because he was one of the biggest stars.
Yeah.
But Ron Dante was his producer, and you know, Barry didn't pick the song, and I think he just said, "Fuck it, I'll do it myself,"
Mm-hmm.
and put the song out. I think he did a great job with it.
Yeah.
It has a yearning. It has a yearning quality to it.
And then with I'm the Lucky One. You remember the song?
Valley Willis, co-written with Valley Willis. Yeah, she passed away last December. Yeah, she had. Yeah, the lucky one. Yeah, I had gone to LA and co-wrote that song, and who performed it?
I mean, the person singing vocals was Bill Champlin, but it was Tim Weisberg.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sort of was a non-event, I think.
Yeah.
You know, see, Allie Willis, I knew because she was the coat check girl at
Mhm.
Reno Sweeney nightclub where we used to perform. And so the night she was working at Columbia Records writing promotional copy for the ads, and by night, and then she made her own album called Child Star, I think, or Star Child, Child Star. I don't know, Child Star, I think. And it didn't take off. So then she and Georgia Weiss, one of the performers that was always hanging around Reno Sweeney, they took off in her car and they drove all the way to LA. And the night they left, we sort of gave them a blessing. And I looked at her and I grabbed her by the shoulders and I said, "You are going to make it so big," you know. And then she did. So then later on, I went to LA and we wrote at A&M Studios. There was like these writing rooms. It was in a little office. I never met. And the windows had like they looked like fish tanks. They were like these round windows.
Mhm.
And then I went back to New York, and then one of the guys that was writing with her at the time was a guy named Tom Snow,
Yep.
who wrote
He's so shy and
Shy and all that.
yeah.
And so I get a call from a guy that says, "Hey, this is Tom Snow. I'm going to be in New York. I would, I would love to write with you." And I was like, "Wow, he's one of the biggest writers. Like that would be awesome." So, we set up a date, and this guy walks in, very handsome, kind of like looked like former model or something with gray hair, like
Mhm.
like kind of like graying like young kind of thing, like when people get gray hair when they're like in their mid-20s or something. Very handsome. And then we start writing a song, and it's like, why is this guy not contributing? I feel like I'm writing a song all by myself,
Mhm.
and he just like standing there like smiling at me and stuff. And so then he leaves, and then I call Allie Willis and I said, "Allie, I just wrote with Tom Snow, and I sort of felt strange. He wasn't contributing." She said, "What? I'm here with Tom Snow. He's with me right now." And it was like, what? It was
Oh.
like he was an imposter
Oh. That's weird.
that was like a fan.
That's good. That's bizarre.
And remember that, Mark Chapman had killed, you know, John Lennon, like I heard the shots. It's
Yeah.
like 5 shots.
Wow.
So it sent a chill through me. And he was supposed to come back the next day to finish the song. And she put Tom on. He was furious, right? And I said, "Okay,
Mhm.
he's coming back tomorrow." I said, "Okay." So there were these 2 gay like bodybuilders that lived upstairs, and I had them come down and like, with their tank tops and muscles, and they were sitting on the couch with their big arms, and so the guy shows up and he looks around, he says, "Oh, what's going on?" And I said, "Oh, these are my friends." And then I said, then the phone rings. And then I pick up the phone. I said, "Oh, hi, hi." And I said, "Oh, Tom, it's for you." And he's like, "For me?" And he takes the phone and he has like the real Tom Snow,
Mhm.
like going crazy, saying that he's gonna have him arrested and all
Yeah.
that shit. And he turns white and starts shivering. Now at this point, I'm standing there and the 2 bodyguards on each side of me, like behind me, like standing there, like, with their arms crossed. And they're like 6'4", right? Huge guys. And he's like trembling.
Mm-hmm.
And he hangs up the phone, and I was like, "Why did you do it?" And he said, "Because you're my favorite songwriter of all time, and I didn't think you'd ever write with me. And if you knew, I hadn't done anything, and I just wanted to meet you, and I this and that." And I said, "Get out of here!" So we kicked him out, and I never saw the guy again. But that was kind of funny.
Wow.
That was sort of in the spin of the lucky one.
Yeah, that's crazy. So then you had a single on Epic Records. What was the story? How did that come about?
Well, I left Desmond Child and Rouge. I kind of was lost, and I tried that band, and it wasn't right, and I didn't really know what I was doing. We did one gig, and I think Daryl Hall came, and he was like looking at me, from behind a column to see what I was up to, and it was still kind of, it's like Bon Jovi-esque before I met Bon Jovi, right? It was like,
Mhm.
it was kind of that Springsteen-esque kind of opera
Right.
kind of rock. And but also we had already immersed ourselves in the Police and U2. So
Mhm.
all the guitars were like, blinga blinga, all the kind of thing in this, kind of jazz beats, and it was crazy. It wasn't good. And I just felt completely lost. So somebody said, "Would you like to meet Bob Crewe? He's a very experienced, legendary songwriter co-wrote all the songs with Bob Gaudio for the Four Seasons. He had written
Right.
Late Marmalade that LaBelle cut. I mean, he was like very, and he had sort of, had a hard time. He had been, gotten into a lot of drugs and drinking, and then went into the program. And the thing that made him do it, he got hit by a car crossing Santa Monica Boulevard in LA, and his one leg was broken into 28 pieces. It took
Wow.
him multiple surgeries to build his leg back, which was never right again, but at least it was his leg. And he moved to New York and decided to start over. So he had set up a writing room, which he had rented a studio because he was like fabulously wealthy from
Mhm.
all airplay that his songs continue to have to this day. Can't take my eyes off of you. I mean, like songs like that. And he invited me to co-write with him, and then the idea was that he would produce me as a solo artist. And at that point, I started, going back to the blue-eyed soul sound, more like what later became George Michael kind of thing.
Mhm.
I was trying to like sing more like R&B, but he got me a deal for a one single. I mean, it's like I was a nothing. I had like crashed and burned. Had I realized, how powerful what we had was so great in Desmond
Mhm.
Child Rouge, but I didn't see myself. I just had no like self-esteem. So, we had the one single. It had a two-sided single, um, and I forget what those two songs were.
The A side is called a Little Romance.
A Little Romance. Yeah, and that was kind of like fire, kind of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of thing. And then the other one was more R&B called what?
I don't think I know the B
Like
side offhand.
it was like an R&B kind of James Ingram-y almost ballad.
Mhm.
And because I got dropped, it was a nothing, and I didn't have a management, and all that. So then, but that was after working with him for over a year and a half, and
Oh.
we wrote 38 songs in that
Yep.
period. But he's the one that I attribute all of my success to because he taught me how to write songs.
Yep.
And so I don't know if you've read this in other interviews, but we would write every day. We'd meet for lunch across the street from where he had this room that it was just a studio with a little kitchen, but it was like in like a modern, like high-rise, like apartment building, very, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was cream color and beige rug and the black piano and a bench. And there was only a stool for him, like beautiful stool with like kind of like a bar stool kind of thing with arms.
Yeah.
That was the only furniture in that room. There was no couch, no armchair. So if you wanted to not be on the bench, you had to like lean against a wall.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go back to the bench and like sit there because he didn't play piano at all. But that was a piano that he was his lucky piano that all the biggest hits had been written on.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had a stack of like blank yellow pads, and he would like I think he had an electric pencil sharpener, so he'd be like going in the kitchen sharpening the pencils, and then we'd sit there and stare at blank pages, and he'd be telling me the story of his life, and then some phrase, because he was very charming, would pop out, and then we'd write that as the title.
Right.
And so we did that 38 times. The songs would take from 2 to 3 days to finish.
Mm-hmm.
It was Monday through Friday, and it was, I'd meet him for lunch at noon. Then by 1:15, we'd be writing till 6, and then he stopped, and then he'd go off to his AA meeting, and then, I'd see him the next day. And he was very formal a bit, what I'm saying. It wasn't, even though he was gay or whatever, there was never any attempt to try to do anything with me or anything like that. He was very, very like
mm-hmm.
formal, actually, and more like a teacher. He was like, I remember one day when we were writing a song and he was trying to get me to sing "Lady." Remember, he had a lot of luck with the word "lady,"
mm-hmm.
Lady Marmalade, and all this. It's like I said, I cannot sing the word "lady." I will not sing the word "lady." I just cannot sing "lady."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, why not? I says, because I'm gay. I'm not going to sing to ladies anymore. I'm not going to pretend I'm straight.
Right.
I'll just keep things neutral, and not be gendered. And he was like, he was just bearing down on me, and I just like started to cry.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. And then he was like, oh, and he came around, he kind of like put his arm around me, and had like drops of tears falling on the piano keys. And he didn't make me sing "Lady." Maybe I should have sung "Lady," but it was like one of those kind of very exquisite moments, because there I was with one of the greatest songwriters of all time, and he's telling me to do one thing and I'm saying no.
Right.
And but he taught me the art of rhyming perfectly, and of inner rhyming, and of alliteration, rhythm, making sure that one line was connected to the next line.
Right.
That it wasn't just random selection of lines, that one line went into the other, into the other, into the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like when I went to co-write Dude Looks Like a Lady with Steven Tyler and Joe Perry, there was like, the art of Bob Crewe was like thoroughly ingrained in my system. So never judge a book by its cover, or who you're going to love by your lover.
Right.
That perfect Bob Crewe line.
Mm-hmm.
Would go over and over things, and he would say it over and over again. And he said, no, that's not just right. It just doesn't feel right on the tip of my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
He said, when you can get everything to flow, then people can remember the song. So then when they hear it again, they can sing along, they'll remember it, and then it gets into their system, then it becomes a classic.
Right.
And so that is the reason why I think I had that whole long streak of successful songs. You know, because I applied that to everything I was doing, regardless of style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was so funny that the like other interviews I've watched where you say the first thing you said to Steve and Joe is that you think that their original lyrics sounded bad.
Well, and not the lyric, it was the title. They were singing "Cruising for the Ladies."
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that it's like, what are we going to see? You know, the band riding in a top-down pink Cadillac down Sunset Strip. I think, you know, Van Halen had done that like millions of times. You know, it's like, you know, and so then that's when Steven said that he originally was singing "Dude Looks Like a Lady," and then told me the story and all that, which we don't have to go into now. But, you know, I won their respect.
Yep.
Like right from the start, I said, no, it's not good.
Yep.
And then pushed them to come up with what it really should be, which was what it was originally, but they didn't trust their instinct because they thought that, you know, Joe said, I don't want to offend the gay community. It's like, you would.
One of the other things about that you sang a year after you did the single in '83, you sang for Ellen Shipley.
Sang what?
You sang for Ellen Shipley on her Called the Wild album.
We did? Who sang? Desmond Child and Rouge or just me?
It's you, because that was in '83.
I don't remember that at all. What song was it?
It was a title track.
I didn't co-write that. I just sang, right?
Yeah.
What did I sing?
It was background harmony on, I think, the whole album.
I don't remember that, honestly.
Really?
No. Not at all. Not
did you have yeah, Call of the Wild.
On Call of the Wild?
Yeah, on RCA.
I don't remember that at all.
Wow.
And that's a long story, my history with her, but wait, hold on. Okay, I'm back.
So did you know Ellen Shipley for a long time prior to that?
Because we used to play at a little club called something, Eric's Back Room. It was north of 86th Street. And we lived on the Upper East Side. And then there was another place owned by the guy. It was called PJ's or something like that. JP's. It was called JP's. And JP was the owner of Tracks across town. But anyway, she was playing at Eric's Back Room, and I think that's where we met her.
Okay.
And then we made friends. And, you know, she was in the same circuit.
I was curious to, since he was also in New York, did you ever encounter Benny Mardones?
What did he do? I remember the name.
He did Into the Night.
I remember his name, but I didn't work with him.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because I know he was another New York musician in that same area, and I just talked to Gerard McMahon too. Did you ever meet him?
doesn't sound familiar, but you know, that's a long time ago, and there's been thousands of people since then that I've met. I might have interacted with. Like, I don't at all remember singing on Ellen's record. I don't remember being in the studio singing with her or for her. I don't.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
blocked it out, I guess. So how come you're so interested in all of these kind of obscure things?
I don't know. I don't know. I just if I'm a big fan of a songwriter or an artist, I like to go back and really study their early songs because I know that nobody's ever asked you these things, and I
How,
was like genuinely curious.
how old are you?
I'm 23.
Oh, because you look like you're like 14.
Yeah, I'm not very tall either, so
Um, hmm. So you're like Czech, is that what you're saying?
that's yeah. Mayak is like yeah, that's Czech. I know that Diana, she lives here too. She's a vocal teacher here.
Yeah, she's moved now.
Oh, she doesn't live in Minneapolis anymore.
No, everything that's happened and you know all of that she moved uh to West Virginia uh
Oh,
to take care of her mother who's way in her 90s and stuff. And I don't think it's like a forever move, but you know,
yeah.
but she's still teaching on Skype and everything for her, you know, all of her students. She teaches voice, and
Hmm.
we've been working remotely. And actually, she came to Nashville on her way to or from Virginia, from Minneapolis, and re-sang "Our Love Is Insane"
Wow,
from
that's
scratch.
cool.
It sounds awesome. It really does. So
So I wanted to ask about when is your book coming out yet this year?
not this year, next year, because, you know, kind of like with everything that's happened, it's impossible to promote a book or do book signings and all of that. And because I haven't done it before, I'm actually
Hmm.
on three books. One is a book of my mother's poetry and lyrics. And I decided to self-publish that to just see how it works to do it through Amazon and Ingram and Kindle and stuff. You can self-publish, and it's relatively inexpensive to do it. You know, the thing is like, how do people find out about it? And because I do have a kind of a following, and I have a PR person and everything at Rogers and Cowan, Christina Parvu, and she does an amazing job. So we're just going to mount our own book campaign because
Okay.
I've had 4 deals offered, and they've never it it hasn't felt right to do because I don't
Hmm.
because it's sort of like I don't feel a hunger to do it from
Right.
them. It's like, oh well, yeah, I guess you are kind of associated with some famous songs and with some famous people, but basically the communication is you're of no interest really, you know.
Hmm.
Give us some dirt on these people. It's like, no, you know.
Hmm.
So, and then I'm working on a book with Jody Marr, one of my collaborators, and she's a professor at Belmont. And we
Okay.
decided to make the ultimate songwriting textbook that could be used at college. Because
Wow,
it says
that's
there is
cool.
none. You know, there are a
Yeah.
lot of memoirs and kind of how-to books and things like that, but you know, they're not, the memoirs are written by the important writers like Jimmy Webb and people like that. But they're not really manuals as to how to deconstruct a song and all the secrets. And so we're going to divide into 12 portions, which kind of aligns with a college curriculum. And we're going to do deep dives into 12 of my biggest hits.
Wow.
And who my collaborators were, how it was written, how then the song, you know, made it onto the record, how did it stay on the record, how did it become a single, how, you know, all these kinds of things, because all of those things added up to it becoming a hit. So we're going to call it Anatomy of a Hit, Masterclass in Songwriting. I'm really excited about that. You know, and she, you know, does incredible amount of research on, you know, the history of music, anthropology of music, all the way through, you know, music composed by artificial intelligence. You know, still all human beings doing it.
Right.
One way or another, you know, couldn't happen unless somebody pushed a button, you know. So that's really exciting. And that'll be a separate book from my book, which is called Desmond Child, Living on a Prayer, Big Songs, Big Life. And my co-writer on that is David Ritz, who's written autobiography, you know, autobiography. He's a ghostwriter, but, you know, not in the closet, you know, like he knows, he helped me. He interviewed me and we transcribed the interviews, and then he put my responses together, my storytelling, and then he would help shape them. And then he'd come to me and I'd say, well, that really doesn't sound like me. And then I'd send him something back, and we've been doing that for 4 years.
Wow.
So I think this is going to be the definitive book on, you know, especially that period of music in the 80s where all those big songs were.
Right.
But then, you know, so that's the 3 books. My mom's, and her name was Elena Casals, and she was a Cuban poet and songwriter. And in fact, I co-founded the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame after she passed away in her honor. And a statue of her for that, you know, was from the time when I was born, called La Musa, is now like our statue, you know, that like our Oscar.
Yeah.
So she will live forever that way. So, you know, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm on the board of ASCAP and serving there. I'm on the board of the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And that's how I thought to help to create the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame. And, you know, I'm very much involved in, you know, songwriters' rights and, you know, anything that helps my fellow songwriters, because, you know, I have an empathy, because my mom never made a dime, you know, but she tried so hard. She even had cuts, but the money never got to her. So that's why I felt like I had to make it really big. One, so I could take care of her, which I did, and she was very, like, lived in style till she passed, and she was like a queen. And I'm proud of that. But you know, the fact is that, you know, working songwriters are really having a good time, unless your name is, you know, Beyonce. You know, it's really hard. You know, you know, unless your song is a single, you don't get airplay. So then if it's on an album, you know, the streaming fees are so, you know, minuscule. It's really very, very, very sad. Before, if you came to Nashville and you got a song on Garth Brooks' record and it wasn't even a single, you could make a living. You could have a nice life, you know, but not anymore. So it's really like, it's survival of the fittest. Those that have the skill, that can nail it on the head and get Carrie Underwood to co-write with them and write the perfect song for her and have it be the single, those are the people that are rule. They rule. They're the kings and queens of Nashville. Those songwriters. You know, but it takes a certain, not only skill, but drive, ambition, and a certain kind of personality that makes the artist you're co-writing with feel good about themselves and feel nurtured and excited when you walk through the door. And that's one of the things that, I've tried to cultivate, with the, my collaborations that I've done throughout my life.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a lot of cool things to look for to get CD copies of next month. And thank you a lot for agreeing.
Yeah, man. And so are you going to be a professor of, 80s pop music or something?
Well, I'm trying to like compile all these interviews together. I just started doing them. Billy was the first person I talked to.
Well, I hope that you had a good reception, and that I'm not blurry and whatnot.
Yeah.
You're kind of blurry to me.
Yeah.
So I hope I'm clear enough for your usages. I don't hear you now. You kind of like jumped off.
Oh,
Good.
it's been good on my end.
I'm not hearing you.
Oh, you still can't hear me?
It's not synced up with the sound. Yeah, you're the visual with the sound. It's like off filter. So
okay.
that's the close of our interview. You're like the the grand guy, wizard or whatever in Star Wars that just kind of like floats on and then blinks and then disappears.
Right.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll get this up on YouTube.
Okay, man. If you need anything else, reach out, okay?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah.